Welcome to Making Your Miles Count podcast, a place where independent operators in Canada find true understanding about their own industry. And today we're going to have a special interview with a man by the name of Michael Glassford. He's been our client for a number of years and a very successful owner-operator out of Ontario. He's moving from one carrier to another, and that occasionally is par for the course as an independent operator. Remember, an owner-operator is somebody who runs percentage, and a lease operator is somebody who gets paid flat rate cents per mile. This interview also has Peter Funk and Dan Scheper, who are helping a fellow owner-operator make some choices, getting a little bit of understanding about the industry. Michael is extremely proficient at his particular task and niche, and sometimes I think we learned more in the interview from him than we were providing. But realistically, this is to the benefit of you and not necessarily us. So I really appreciate you joining. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us to make proper content for you, and share it with individuals who may need to be encouraged a little in what they're doing. And thank you very much.
Welcome to Making Your Miles Count production, an educational program to all Canadian lease owner-operators with your host, Robert Scheper.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to introduce to you Peter Funk and actually my brother, Dan Scheper. These guys have been drivers 30, 35 years, whatever it is. And they're both doing flat decks right now. And we do podcasts for Making Your Miles Count. A couple of things. I'd like to get to know a little bit of what your history is. You sent some really nice pictures of your truck and trailer and the like. Now, you own both of them, eh? Like, of course.
Yes, sir.
And you're out of Ontario. And the unique trailer you have there, Conestoga.
Yes.
How long have you owned it?
2 years.
2 years. To your understanding, are there any restrictions in using that, even in your current job that you have right now?
I am finding that there's a fair amount of people who do not want to load Conestogas.
Ah, I see. Because it's side loading, or.
My thought or my theory is that there's a lot of people that are squeamish about letting their people with forklifts get near them.
Oh.
Because they can damage them.
Sure.
They're pretty easy to damage.
Yeah, liability issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. They won't exactly come out and tell you that.
Yeah, of course. Okay, a couple of questions maybe right off the bat. How long have you been driving truck?
I've had my license for over 40 years.
Aha. We'll call you seasoned then.
I got my license in the military.
Oh, okay.
Armed Forces.
Cool. You're what we classify as an owner-operator. Have you ever been a lease operator, or have you always been an owner-operator?
No, I have been a company driver for most of the time that I've been driving. I've only been an owner-operator / lease operator because I don't actually have my own authority.
Yeah. But you've always been on percentage, or were you on miles at one time too?
Just been on percentage for the last 5 years.
Oh, 5 years. Okay. And what kind of experience do you have? Like, have you always done deck, or is it deck, van, reefer?
I have done deck, van, reefer. I've done flat deck. In the military, I did some RGN work, heavy haul. I have basically I have not done tanker or logs or bulk. That's the only three things I haven't done.
Oh, okay. How many carriers have you worked for, say, as an owner-operator in the last 5 years?
As an owner-operator?
Yeah. 2?
Correct.
And how long have you been at the current one you're at right now?
Just crossed the 6-month mark.
6 months. Okay. What are your expectations for driving long term? Are you got it 1 year, 5 year?
Until they pry my dead fingers from the stern.
Oh, okay. Sure. Approximately, what are you looking at in terms of days out on the road at any one time? What's the how do we say the longest you would allow yourself to be out on the road, or maybe your significant other?
When I first started, the guy that I leased under, we had worked into a routine where I would go out for 2 weeks at a time, come back home, spend 4 days, and then go back out again for 2 weeks at a time.
Oh yeah.
And I found that to be the most profitable, because then I could get in a mid-range, like 900,000 mile run to start with, and then do 2 600 or 500 to 600 mile runs in the middle, and then finish it off with another long one. The idea was always every other weekend I'd get home.
Oh yeah.
But the last month and a half has been terrible.
Yeah. Is there anything that you don't want to do? Say you don't want to go in this area, you don't want to do this or that.
New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Join the club. Okay.
I was there 2 weeks ago. No fun.
As far as that, anywhere. I go anywhere, do anything. In fact, I like the more demanding the customer is, right? The more anal retentive he is, and want someone to be extra careful. Those are my favorite customers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's also where the money is, right?
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And once they see that you have, like, I just picked up a load from Oregon, and Portland, Oregon, and brought it back here. And apparently, the last 6 times he's shipped this load out, he's got delicate panels that are used to make truck beds with, like truck bodies.
Okay.
Okay.
And they're they're basically styrofoam with a hard cover on either end of it. And apparently the last 6 guys wrecked them, caused damage to them. And he was absolutely thrilled when I pulled out 4-foot long corner boards and covered the entire load with it.
Oh yeah.
All right, to make sure. And he says, "Well, I haven't seen anybody with those."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
So it helps to have. I have all the stuff to meet the delicate stuff that needs.
Sure.
to be taken care of.
You were driving then basically 4.5 years as an owner operator for a different company. What was the reason why you left that company?
Because the owner got sick and retired.
Oh, there you go.
Otherwise, I'd still be there. I don't like to move. The last company I worked for 10 years.
Sure.
So once I get into it, I hope I don't have to look again after this.
Sure.
Next year.
Yeah, that's good. Was there any particular thing that drew you to your existing company? Like, was there a friend, customer, anything at all, or anything specific?
Well, 2 people I've driven with have come on with this company. I knew them, and and then the previous owner I worked with, he recommended them.
Oh, okay.
And I did my own. My accountant did not recommend them.
Oh, yes.
I did some quick research, but normally I tend to research these things for months on end.
Yeah.
Before I make a decision, and in this particular case, I didn't have the luxury of being able to do that.
Sure.
Because it was Christmas time, and he just quit and left me with,
Oh wow.
find a new place, and yeah. So my theory at the time is I don't like big companies typically.
Yeah.
I like the smaller guys. You get more personal attention, and they usually have more respect for you and let you do your job.
Yeah.
And I find with the smaller people, they typically treat you as partners rather than as a number. In this case, I was worried about the economy,
Yeah.
and I figured I had better chances going with a large carrier with a long history, but unfortunately, it's not working out. And
Sure. I think
they're busy enough in the States. but
it.
not
Yeah.
busy
It might be a little bit where you're located in Ontario. I don't know. I'm not like to try and figure out match a truck driver with a carrier is, I think you'd be better at matchmaking marriages than that. Sometimes it's certainly not a simple choice. The biggest thing probably, I got three major points when it comes to choosing a carrier. I always say, unless you're in the top 20% of any one particular carrier, so like you are doing exceptional, they love you, you love them, you've carved out a nice niche. Unless you're in the top 20%, you should always have a short list somewhere where you say, okay, this is my second, third, or fourth choice. A person should always have that list available in there. And the second thing, especially in your choice, because I mean, you got decades of experience, a nice unit, and you have a high service oriented future for yourself and in your past. You should be interviewing carriers and not the other way around. A lot of times, what comes across from recruiters and the like is that the carriers are interviewing the drivers, when realistically, especially from your perspective, you're in the driver's seat, not the carriers in there. They should be impressing you and not the other way around. Probably the other one is don't shoot for a perfect choice or a perfect match. There's very little perfect matches anywhere in there. The biggest thing is just avoid bad choices. I don't know if I'd necessarily call your move to this particular thing a bad choice. It's maybe an unfortunate situation, because when freight slows down, there's a lot of things changes in carriers. There's just in Canada alone, there's over 10,000 carriers, and that makes there's a lot of choices that we have. Way too many. Our brains can't understand 10,000 different choices. We can't even understand more than 6. If we have a choice of 6, we can make good choices of 6. So the biggest thing is to avoid the ones that are really, really bad. And that's probably where I'd focus the most of attention, and that is to avoid a really bad choice. Probably your biggest hurdle is going to be the trailer that you have. How married to your trailer are you, and what is your thoughts on it?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm quite. I started off with actually the perfect trailer. I did my research in the beginning, so when I first started off this venture, I had a triaxle with a rear lift, double drop step deck, with the 17.5 tires.
Okay.
It was 36 inches off the ground, which opened me up to pretty much all kinds of different freight. I was able to haul a lot of the larger tractors and excavators and all kinds of stuff, as well as regular construction freight. It was Jesse, it was the company owner, because a number of his clients really preferred. He had specific clients that preferred us to have Conestogas.
Oh, yeah.
So it was with his repeated pushing that he finally convinced me to, okay, I'll go ahead and get a,
Okay, so you're, yeah.
And then a year later, he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you
So
go.
I'm finding myself, hey, now this company, it's like all I hear about is, we don't want to load Conestogas, but geez, if you had a step deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure,
wow.
good. That might be something, like, unless you find something very specific so that the Conestoga is the perfect match for you. I guess a little bit depends on how desperate you are to move to a new one. What, in terms of cash flow and stuff like this, how much time it would take you to find a new carrier.
Luckily enough, I've read every article you've ever read.
Oh, yeah.
And I've read all your book, right, numerous times. So I took everything you said to heart and continue to pay myself, right, as if I was working for my company.
Sure.
And banked everything. So thankfully, I have managed to, in 5 years, bank a fair amount.
Oh, okay.
But the last month and a half, I've probably lost roughly 25 grand.
Oh, wow. Okay. Did you lose 25 grand, or is it just losing that much revenue?
It's a combination of the two.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, in your resources of finding carriers, like there's large carriers and small carriers now. Like I was saying, there's thousands of carriers all over. If you are very specific in terms of you want a certain type of deck work, because that is something that you really want to continue doing, I can send you a list of. I don't think I've ever sent anybody a list less than 3 carriers, because I don't support one carrier at all, or I don't promote any one carrier over another. If I would do that publicly, I would do it very quickly, because it's so litigious. I would be out on my butt on the street very quickly. But realistically,
it's either even carrier, but
yeah.
It's either a carrier or, at the same time, I do have the option, right? If I could get a lead on a Scheper who had a
Okay, now you're talking a little bit different here. To get your own running rights is another.
I don't see, with Admiral, I don't need my own running rights to
Sure.
secure my own Scheper. They
Sure.
give me, in my contract, they give me the right to find my own customers.
Sure.
I can directly negotiate my own
Sure.
customers.
Now, when it comes to moving from an owner-operator to a trucking company, which is a very different animal, I think you're well qualified to do it from a cash flow perspective and the like. The leap from being an owner-operator to being a carrier is actually just an administrative. It's a paperwork thing. Because oftentimes, actually, one of the first steps that a lot of operators do when they move from being an owner-operator to their own running rights, they just find themselves a really good load broker and say, listen, okay, I've been doing this. And they tie 80, 85, 95% of everything they move in the first 6 or 9 months to one load broker. And they're cut regular checks from the load broker, and as long as it's a reputable load broker that they're working with, it's not that bad. You can then start looking and developing your own customers, your own lanes and loops, and then you can decide what kind of equipment and stuff like this, and you can build your own future for that. It's pretty good. Now, there are some upfront costs on it. Have you ever read So You Want to Own a Trucking Company? That's from Bill Cameron?
Yeah, 3 times.
Oh, really? There's great little articles in there, a compilation of a whole bunch of articles in there.
I do have to put just a little caveat, and that is, I get from a business standpoint, everything he said makes complete sense.
Sure.
But I think he missed out one thing, and that is that one doesn't do everything just because of the numbers.
Yeah. Yes.
A lot of people become business owners in a certain area because it happens to be a passion of theirs. It happens to be something they enjoy doing. So how one determines their level of success, I wouldn't say I'm rich doing what I've done for the last 5 years, right? But I've managed to take care of myself. I've obviously managed to keep my truck up looking pretty good. But my biggest joy is that I get to do what I love.
Sure.
So to me, that's success.
Yeah, for sure. I can give you the general stats of individuals, and we have quite a few guys who go from become their own small carrier. They typically, on average, they don't make anything more than 5 to 15% more than an owner operator does. But almost universally 80 to 90% of them work much less. And if the, I mean, we do have 5 to 10% of them, you know, they work like crazy, and then they buy the second truck, third truck, and then, I mean, we have some guys at a different company called Dicom, and you know, guys with 10, 15 plus trucks, and they have a going concern quite a bit there. But generally speaking, there's lots of guys who have their own running rights. And once they get past the 18 to 24 month mark with their own running rights, and they develop a very strong reputation of good service, they actually do quite well. And some of the points that Bill Cameron does make is, yeah, there's a lot of hurdles for the first little while because nobody trusts you because you're a new trucking company, of course, you know. But if you're interested in getting your own running rights, you don't necessarily, have to have, 20, 30 trucks 10 years from now. That's not necessarily a goal. If you want true independence and work with customers that have great service, well, those are that's a phenomenal admirable future, you know. And you can do very respectful returns for, you know, carving out a nice niche of high level service for it. Very similar.
The biggest hurdle for me is how to get that first customer when you're just one truck. Yeah,
and that's where load brokers do an awful lot. I would say my guess is, and this is just a guess, it's not my area of expertise, but I would probably say 60 to 70% of all guys who get their own running rights from a truck truck owner straight into getting their own running rights. They start off with a load broker. They start off with one load broker, and then maybe they go to two, but over a period of time, and there is a barrier to entry that a lot of people don't realize right at the beginning. First of all, when somebody gets their running rights and they start going out and they're dealing directly with either load brokers or anybody, nobody trusts you for the first 18 to 24 months, you know. And their biggest thing is they don't want to get screwed by these small guys. They don't want to lose all of the freight that they've been working for. But finding your own loads, the easiest is probably get a load broker, but you're going to have trouble getting your own customers, you know, from a load broker. Obviously, a load broker wants you to use him forever, you know. But that is the biggest problem in the first 18 to 24 months, and that is securing customer direct freight, and that takes a while to do that. And there's so many different ways to do it. Some guys go, you know, directly to a customer and say, "Look, I've been hauling this for you for 2 years. You know my face. I get my own running rights," and they can secure their own. Or if you wanted for the first little while use a load broker, it's your cash flow is quite secure usually. If you find a decent load broker, you should be quite well. Now there's an awful lot of load brokers in this world, and I don't claim at all I don't even point anybody to load brokers because I don't even know half of the big ones or so. But it is probably about 60% of the clients that we've experienced who get their own running rights, they first find themselves a load broker, and then that's what they start out with. And then once they've mastered their cash flow in there, then they start looking for their own freight and slowly develop their own customer from there. That is an option for sure that you might want to do. If you're looking for a carrier to work with, the one that you sent me and looking at their contract, when it comes to a carrier contract, when you're running owner operator, it can range from anywhere from their cut is 10 to 25% kind of a thing. It's not necessarily that you make more money at 10% than at 25%. everything depends on who their customers are, and what access to freight rates that they can command, and because it's there are some very big cuts. Sorry, go ahead.
What sort of questions when I'm interviewing these people? What sort of questions should I ask them to get that relevant information?
Yeah, they're going to give you cherry-picked all the really good answers, generally speaking. That's realistically probably the reputation out on the street is probably the most important. Who the CEO is, how honest and full of integrity they have. That's the most important thing, because so much can change. Even carriers being bought out by someone else, it can change so incredibly much. Like you've expressed quite a bit when it comes to over-dimensional and heavy haulers, and that is a specialty market within flat deck already. And so you've cut down the available resource, or how many companies do that. Probably 95% of all trucking companies out there don't deal with that. So you got much lower amount of carriers doing that kind of stuff already. And even a big carrier that does oversize, over-dimensional, you will more than likely, the good ones anyway, are going to be able to, they're going to have a lot of custom use, because oversized, over-dimensional, they are very, very careful on who they hire, because there's so much liability issues in it. There's so many that's driver related. They can't just hire somebody who came out of 18 months ago, came out of the school, and they just throw them into the van, and you can't do that with heavy haulers. There's a lot of mentoring, a lot of understanding to do. I think you would be very well received. You'd be happy at even what I would call the larger oversized, over-dimensional guys, because they know that their bread and butter are the drivers, because so much responsibility is on their shoulders. They have to treat. They don't just hire anybody out there, and I think you're very well qualified to do anything. So I hope you're not stuck on only these guys with 5 to 10 or 15 trucks or something like that.
I think my biggest concern at this point, because I've heard the promises, my biggest concern is the first question I asked you, and that is, I would like to get on with somebody who I know has contracts solidified enough that I won't have to be sitting a week and a half someplace.
I don't know that industry or market very much. Do you know guys who are currently doing it?
Doing
oversized, over-dimensional?
Yes. I've got feelers out to them. I don't know if I should be mentioning the name of these
companies. No, there's no need for it anyway, because several reasons. One, we're being recorded, and second, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's a niche within a niche,
But and there's one that's a massive corporation that would be tractor only. So I wouldn't have to have a trailer.
Okay.
And then there's the other one that we talked about before.
Sure.
He's smaller, but I would have to get my own trailer with him.
Yeah.
The one that is taking on owner-operators right now that does not require me to have my own trailer, they pay by the hour.
Oh.
And the other one pays 15%.
Oh, their cut is 15%.
Yeah, and so both of them, both of them took 20 seconds to look at my history, and we're like, yeah, we'll take you on, no problem.
Yeah. you have a very impressive resume. There's not very many people who have 40 years experience in the Army and all what you've done or whatever. Mm-hmm. You're one of the cherry pickers. I don't know if that makes sense.
I also think when they look at my work history, they know I'm not looking for greener grass.
Sure.
I mean, wherever I've landed. If I've had to move on, it wasn't. Even the company I was with for 10 years, I moved on because it was time for me to take a challenge and go out on my own.
Yeah, for sure.
And my boss at the time, he was quite he was actually mentoring me to help me to do it. So he was quite excited for me. So
right on. No, that's good. I enjoy when I do an evaluation, or if I talk to somebody about evaluating different carriers. We're discussing it here with these guys here, even just the other day. If you know the culture of the company, and the company is what I would call wise leadership, where they don't talk about anything but really sound advice. There was a good example that my brother had a situation where there was a new driver that came into the office and said, "Hey, you know what? How come there's a preferential treatment at this carrier?" And the president or CEO came out and said, "Of course there is," and it kind of shocked the guy. And he said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Of course there is. You've just been here just a few months, and I don't know what kind of a character you are. You have to work your way to the top in this business. These other guys have done their time, and I know exactly what I'm dealing with." And that kind of a response is what I would call a wise leadership response, as opposed to I was talking to about another company that when things got slow in freight, everybody would suffer a little bit until they get to a certain point, and then if the freight went even softer than that, then they would pick a list of 5 or 10 truck drivers, and they basically starve those guys into submission so that they would quit. And that kind of behavior is not wise. It's much better bring those 5-10 guys in there and says, "You know what, everything's soft. I'm terribly sorry, but I'm going to have to let you guys go." That would be a wise response, as opposed to the roundabout way and not really confronting stuff. Those kind of stories, if you listen to the carrier and you say, "You know what, these guys really are comfortable. They stand for something," and you can feel very, very confident that the leadership stands by principles, and you don't see evidence of greed or revenge or anything like that. Character is everything for a nice, safe, long-term financial stability for your own self. That's for sure. You got to park yourself under the right tree, kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah. It's somewhat easier at a larger company. Because for the simple reason, especially if it's a public company, they're governed by different principles, and they have more access to more resources, so that they can afford to be I should say afford to be principled, but realistically, sometimes the smaller carriers that have the CEO that does absolutely everything, if he's got a temper or something like that, I just slowly back away and find myself another tree to try and find shelter under.
Okay, can I jump in here a little bit? All right, my name's Dan. I'm actually Rob's brother, and I've done a little bit of RGN for the company I worked for, or I'm working for presently, and I'm there's a few reasons I don't do it very often. I still do it sort of like fill in right now. So the question I have for you in regards to the Rob showed the company that you were thinking of, and their the oversize and heavy haul, is that a regional? Do they service a lot of companies or businesses in their region, or do they just find stuff all over?
Yeah, that's something I do not know yet.
Okay, yeah, and the only reason I ask is because their business model has to fit in with your lifestyle. Like if they're going out and doing all of that stuff all over and they can't get you home, then there's an issue. The other thing is if they have just you may not get the diversity that you're looking for either. You know, they may have short contracts, they pay well, but you won't get out more than 1,000 miles from an area, and whether that fits into your business plan, lifestyle, is a possibility also.
Well, I think I've gotten a little bit older, and I've pretty much been almost everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm okay. I mean, I can do 2-3 months short stuff, stay close and whatnot. I like every few months I may want to stretch my legs.
yeah.
But I'm right back. I'll go right back to doing the short stuff again because quite frankly, it pays better. So.
Yeah, no, and that's cool. I like that, because I know even for me, like I can do like you said, there's some really good paying RGN heavy haul, and after a while, I know part of the reason I started not doing it anymore is because when you're doing oversize, running down the road with something 14.5 feet wide, everybody just wants to get around you, and for me, the stress level was getting too high. It seemed like it draws out the idiots off of the road faster when you put a sign on the front and back and the flashing lights. All the idiots it's sort of like bugs to a to a light bulb, right?
Yeah, bugs to a light bulb.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I could deal with that to a point, and then all of a sudden, okay, now just give me a flat load, and I need to just drive a little bit.
Be cool.
To me, my biggest concern is not what I'm hauling. It's just more. I want more predictability, and I don't want to be dropped left hanging like I have been.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 months is a long time to be left hanging. That's for sure. That's
well, six runs in 2 months.
oh yeah.
Oof.
That's like I said, thank goodness I didn't spend like a drunken monkey. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
I saved my money, but even now, I mean, I'm running loads that 2 years ago were paying me $350 US to $385 US. I'm now running them at $2 a mile.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Is that just because of the slowdown in the economy? Because I know even for me, we're not seeing the big dollar loads as much lately. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm sure you're in the same scenario. I don't have payments, and I can afford not to do as much work. I like working, but I can weather this this storm or whatever you want, this slowdown, much easier than others, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it could be market.
Which is the only reason I was looking at try to focus on some sort of a niche market where the competition isn't interested in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got a bunch of people out there that are willing to run $2 a mile. There's got to be something that I can do where that competition wants nothing to do with this part of the industry.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, basically finding the company where you need, basically you're buying a permit to exclude every one of the cheaper companies, right?
Yeah, but they're paying for your expertise and your ability to get a job done that other people would screw up in. Maybe that's a better way. Yeah.
So right now I'm underutilized.
Yeah.
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 I could be taking on far more.
Yeah.
Attention-oriented work for people.
Sure.
Right? Problem solving, things like that. Like for example, you get into 11 foot, it gets pretty crazy because now you're talking, having to organize pilot crews and whatnot. It gets a little bit wild there, but I typically don't have an issue worrying about the driving aspect of the job. That all to me is very much zen. That's why I keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's dealing with the people who are not honest and leave you hanging.
Well, everybody, at least how do I say this? If the company has been around, or for sure the CEO has been around for longer than 20 years in the industry, for the most part, especially in the specialty niche markets, they should be able to weather this out. Probably the worst rate disaster actually occurred in 2008-9 when it was just ridiculous. That was a rate disaster. The industry disaster was in 2000-2001, where there's a whole bunch of things coming at the same time. Rates are down low now and soft, but from what it sounds like, it's not going to get super much worse than this. You might have a little bit of a problem because where you're located in Ontario, it might somewhat restrict you. And now that if you can emotionally say, you know what, I can get rid of my Conestoga, and you have a lot of ability. Even if you say, you know what, I'm gonna move over to a large carrier and operate there, and just tell them, you know what, I'm gonna give you guys 2 years, and just I want to see a little bit more what's going on. It gives you, if you feel at all any financial pressure, just feel free to just make a 1.5, 2 year commitment at a large firm. You're going to get cash flow. You're going to get going again, and during that next 2 years, then make a longer list of what you actually want to do in the industry. And I'm okay with people moving from one carrier to the other, just as long as it's less than 2 years. This is not your choice to leave the company. Neither was your first one, 6 months ago either, or 7 months ago.
No, if they had the freight, I'd be happy as a client.
Sure, yeah. And before that, even, if the company was even around, then, that kind of thing. But
I like the atmosphere, but because it's as closest to running a company on my own authority as I can get without actually having to do it.
Mm-hmm. Sure, for sure. But that might be something you might want to consider for the future, and develop. Take a couple of years, keep yourself busy, and then start doing the research on the side, where you say, okay, I'm going to get say in 18 or 2 years time from now, 18 months to 24 months, I'm going to get my own running rights, and then start doing the research during it.
I think the biggest hurdle right now to running on my own authority is the insurance.
It is definitely a problem. It is more expensive. Once you get past the how do I say? I guess maybe the 18 to 24 months, it becomes more predictable with insurance. Ontario is you may have to go somewhere else to get insurance. It's a little bit, how do I say, politics, I think, is a little bit more involved in Ontario than it is in other provinces. That might be a different route. I can't guarantee one way or the other, but I do know some guys who have no problem getting their running rights and dealing with insurance right off the bat. But I'm trying to think if there's any from Ontario there. Yeah, there are a few, but they are, comparatively wise, they're, how do I say, they're a little bit more slim. There's less of them from it. But it does, you do have to do a little bit more prep for it as well. Plus also, some guys who come up to me and say, getting your own running rights, how much does it cost? Well, in theory, less than $5,000 for your running rights, but the cash flow itself, you should probably have minimum of 35,000 before, because there's, you have a whole bunch more upfront expenses and then cash flow. I know guys who underfunded themselves right at the beginning and could only run for about 22 days, and then they had to park their truck and wait for cash to come in because they ran out of funds to keep their truck rolling.
All right, so I set aside $50,000.
Oh, good. That's good. 35, I always thought was the minimum, but that's a good idea.
Have you thought of the option, or do you have the option? The company, the heavy haul company you were looking at, do they have their own trailers that you could pull to see how you would fare at the company, as opposed to selling yours and committing right away?
Well, I don't mind. I can always buy another trailer.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm not married. I could care less about the trailer.
Okay. See, you're also probably one of those guys that can find a good deal and get a good deal buying and selling. So I'm not one of those guys. But because I was just thinking, because sometimes you make the commitment and there are gray areas where you're not sure, and had you known, so the company I'm working for, most of the guys have their own most of the owner operators have their own trailers, and I decided not to for a variety of reasons, and one was I like the option because my company has they have step triaxles, they have straight triaxles, they've got straight tandems, they've got RGNs, and I can slide from one trailer to another trailer, and when I get home, they can have a different trailer loaded or a different, and I like it because personally I like the variety, as opposed to, I'm doing lumber all month and I'm done with that. They'll give me 3 different trailers, 3 different types, a little bit of variety.
That would be fun. I would find that intellectually appealing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was one reason why I had lots of opportunities to buy a trailer, and I know there's a couple guys who have bought, and they have a Conestoga, they have a step, and an RGN. They've got 3 different trailers. Well, they during the summer, 2 of them sit insured for 8 months, and they hardly ever use it. And then in the winter, they just pull the step mostly, and the other one, it didn't make sense. And my wife said, "No, just,
that's a bigger." So, yes, the CEO.
Yeah, this is yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, well, I hope we've been helpful at least a little bit for you.
We have.
We can talk again when you have a little bit more time, and then we'll go in list in some names. Like I said, it's not my area of expertise. Owner operators, it's a much bigger field because you're working with freight rates, and my actual research all entails more with lease operators, where he gets paid cents per mile and stuff like that. But owner operators, I know a lot of guys move to owner operators, but you have to be a numbers guy, and you're definitely a numbers guy. What I'm trying to do is sometimes get people who are not numbers guys to get out of the owner operators and get back to be a lease operator, because they're not thinking in the right number mindset or so in that. But no, it's a good industry to be in, and a specialty industry like heavy haul and overdimensional is you can make lots of money. I suppose certain industries like oil field industries and stuff like that can feed that whole niche quite a bit sometimes. Yeah. And then all of a sudden when a prime minister says oil is no good, and then everybody contracts in there. So it changes the dynamics of the industry quite a bit. They're a little bit more susceptible to the ebb and flow of politics or so, that particular market. But yeah, that's for sure.
Here's if I can leave anything, and maybe if this gets onto the air, you can cancel it if you want. But here's my political statement about that: is right. The science of success is not a secret.
Yeah.
It's been figured out a long time ago. Anybody who's ever became successful wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all the books that you read about how to become successful, you won't find in any of our public education systems.
Yeah.
You'll find them over at Coles.
Or in Ottawa sometimes. I don't think they've read any of the success books.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like the idea, right? The idea that the economy is this complicated monster is rubbish. It all breaks down to
I'd say value. Can you produce value for your customer?
Yeah, I mean, and it's demographics.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. People at certain ages are going to have predictable spending patterns, and the majority of the economy right now is still being supported by the baby boomer generation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to be going through a rather volatile stage. So it's either it's the population age, it's the immigration rate, and the quality of that immigration influx. Like are the people coming in skilled, right? Or if they're unskilled. If they're unskilled, it's going to take 2-3 generations before they get to a level where they're actually contributing to the economy.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
That's good.
I mean, so I would say the big slowdown we have now, it's all political. It's not. It's got nothing to do with population, because right now the biggest population in the world is at that point in life where normally they'd be spending like crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is the retirement years. This is when they spend.
Sure. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that everything that we're experiencing, any slowdown, it's all comes down. I can't think of anything that it's not politics, because even the interest rates right now is politics. Politics had their fingers in it for so long, and it's just the eventual effect of having their fingers in it far too long, and the excessive spending is probably the biggest factor. It produces inflation. Then you have to increase the interest rates. And the next thing we're going to deal with in the somewhere near future, I once said 2024. That might be a little bit early, but it might be 25 to 27, and that is deficits and that's going to produce a wave of pain in people. Increased taxes. That's the only answer.
The biggest problem is right now is this carbon tax.
Oh yeah, yeah. In the trucking, it's a sledgehammer to the economy. Let's talk about COVID and end up in a happy place then, because carbon tax is not exactly a happy place to end. All right.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. I've never met you, just this little bit. I've got a good vibe. I'm excited to hear what you actually finally decide.
Yeah.
And what's really the most encouraging is that you've read so many books, and you've done the right thing. You've got money set aside. You can weather through these tougher times, and the encouraging part of that is that these tough times is where it weeds out the really difficult companies and it just resets the people that are doing the right thing. It resets them to put their foot on the rung again and
take themselves to the next level.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All these buzzwords.
Yeah,
but it is true.
All these cliches, buzzwords, whatever. Yeah, it is, and it's true. You read the book.
The wise get wiser, and the fools have to start over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting conversation, and you've definitely given me a few avenues to pursue.
Sure.
Yep.
And I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Let us know what you're going to do. At least I'm interested.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you, Michael.
Yes,
yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Well, I hope you found that podcast helpful. It has a lot of information in there, and you may, in reflection, find out you're heading in a different direction. But even though he has a very specialized niche in the industry, in the market, his understanding of the industry is actually quite applicable everywhere, in my opinion. Very successful operator. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to our channel, share it. Sharing it is very important. What we want to do is help operators become more efficient and effective and stable financially and otherwise in the industry. Other than that, have a great trip.